fucking tired of this shit. What happened to my fucking civil rights? Why can't I go anywhere without being harassed? Get thrown out of a bank, I'm a hostage, I get harassed. I go to the airport. I can't go through security without a random selection. Fucking random my ass. I nearly lost
I
my
bet you can get a cab, though.
I guess that's one of the perks.
Put the ice on your face.
Welcome everyone to the Twice Over Movies podcast. Today I'm here with Fahad and Yusuf, and today we're reviewing Inside Man from 2006. Denzel Washington, Clive Owen, it's a star-studded cast, Jodie Foster. So we have Denzel Washington playing a police detective. He goes toe-to-toe with Clive Owen, who's playing a criminal who's robbing a bank in Manhattan. It becomes a hostage situation, and the aftermath is somewhat complicated when a wealthy and powerful man has a stake in how the negotiations would resolve. All right, Fahad, Yusuf, what's up?
What's up, guys?
Dude,
I love the modified version of this song because it introduces more bass, and it's it works.
I think that's the first thing I'm taking away.
I think
from
it
this
is a slight remix, right? I actually don't know this version because there's like some British dude rapping on it.
Right, especially at the end, right? In the credits, you hear
Yeah, in the
British
credits especially. So I assume it's a slightly remixed version of the
Yeah,
original.
it was bumping.
I love that opening and closing for sure. I mean, I like the song. It was catchy. I'm not saying we can talk. We'll talk. Let's talk. Let's talk about the
Yes.
actual movie, and then we can talk about the song too.
This obviously is spoiler free. Let's start with the writing category. I gave the writing an 85.
I gave it a 90.
I'm at an 85.
We're all pretty close. What I found in the movie was there was never a dull moment with the writing. It was always playful and witty, and there was always like this constant banter going on between the characters, which fit all the characters neatly. I want to share just like this one gem that was there. It was the Sikh guy, and he was complaining about the discrimination and harassment by the cops to the black detective, who was Detective Frazier. And then he comes back at him real quickly and he says, "But I bet you can still get a cab," hinting at like, the discrimination he faces.
Yeah, I said that the writing was pretty clever, funny at times, and very purposeful and engaging as well. So I thought it was a pretty solid, well-written movie.
I've seen this movie before, and I probably didn't give it as much credit the first time around. It is a Spike Lee movie, so I think he does spend a good amount of time making sure that kind of the Spike Lee signature is in the dialogue. A movie like this, especially where, this is a heist movie at its core, right? But he makes sure to get his signature in there kind of in the little details, and that comes through in the dialogue a lot. So yeah, you do get kind of that racial political commentary. Not the center of the movie, but it's definitely there, and you can't ignore it, especially once, I think probably it's more relevant today than it was when it came out, which was 2004, you said?
2006.
And I think to go along with what you said, like it's a signature Spike Lee movie and it's a bank heist movie. I think something you can add onto that is that it's a very distinctively post 9/11 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Particularly with your boy Vikram Walia, dude, the Sikh guy. He certainly feels that, right? That they make that pretty clear in that one scene. But overall, yeah, you can definitely sense that there's a us versus them kind of a palpable racial tension there. So that is very well captured in the writing. So I thought that was one of the strong suits of this movie.
And I would say one thing about Spike Lee, he does go into the commentary a little bit of race, but he does it in a tongue-in-cheek way. It's not really in your face or anything. So his approach is I like it, but it's consistent too throughout like almost every one of his movies.
Yeah. In some movies he focuses on race. I think in this movie he mostly highlights class. So he pits blue collar workers against like the rich and powerful. And I think all the working class people in this movie are kind of united in a sense.
Yeah, definitely interesting commentary there that we can dive into more later. But I think that was a point that was very intentional in terms of where people kind of align. Their alignment chart is like all over the place. But yeah, the robbers and the victims, and they're not necessarily all on opposite sides of the spectrum. So that was cool.
Right, and it evolves throughout the movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's move on to the narrative. I gave it an 80.
I gave it a 90.
I'm a little bit lower on this. I gave it a 65.
Ooh, okay. Go into yours because you're the outlier.
I mean, I just didn't think the plot was necessarily the strong suit of this movie. A lot of the heist elements of this movie seemed about average to me. There wasn't anything that really was substantial there, and I don't think it needed to be for this movie. But I don't think that was anything really unique. It seemed kind of cookie cutter in a lot of ways, and I think that's what I remember from the first time I watched it, that the plot was a little bit cookie cutter. There's definitely
Gotcha.
more beneath the surface here, but I didn't
Yeah.
really think it came through in the storytelling. I guess the direction was fine, so I probably could have gone a little bit
Yeah.
higher, but I also felt kind of like the ending was a bit not bad. It was a little bit flat, I guess I'll say. I don't want to dive into that too much now, but
Let's save that for the discussion.
I would say more that like the flow of the ending of the movie was a little bit off to me. So not necessarily talking about kind of the plot developments, but just the way that it was presented felt a little flat.
Gotcha. So for me, the movie sold itself as like this a crime movie, right? And I went into it thinking of it like that. So I enjoyed it for that reason. And then when there was that misdirection that it threw at us, I liked it even more.
Oh, I was gonna say I kind of agree with Yusuf that the story is a little cookie cutter and cliche. I don't know, but the direction of it, the way it was presented, I thought was very well done. So that kind of pushed it above average to the 80 score for me.
Also, a reason I justified the high score was the editing in this movie is perfect. It was fast paced, and then it slows down when it needs to focus on the characters.
Good point. Yeah, I kind of lumped that with the direction.
Gotcha. Which falls into narrative, right?
Yeah. All right, so acting.
85 for me.
I got an 80.
95 for me. So you guys are pretty close. 95 because what was bad about acting here? I don't understand. Everyone was great. The only reason I didn't give it 100 is because of Jodie Foster. Not that she's a bad actress or anything. It's just her character was, I didn't like the character, I guess, or the way she played it. Like super soft-spoken and sweet, but like stern. I don't know. But that's the only like gripe I had. Otherwise, I thought all the actors were pretty solid. Even like the supporting cast, I thought, I mean, a little stereotypical, sure, but it's like highlighting the diversity of the city and like the crowd that was at the bank. I thought it was good enough, so I wasn't gonna knock it for that. But obviously, the star-studded cast that it is, I thought they were great.
Yeah, there's so many good actors playing all these great supporting cast members. And the characters are all interesting for sure. Why I gave it a lower score than you, Faraz? It's because there weren't many, I don't know, dramatic moments. Like there wasn't a good range of performances. Most of the characters played this like cool detached thing, and then they were witty at the same time, but there were a few moments where things got like heated, especially coming from Detective Frazier, right? When he goes in like a fit of anger, and then there's a little bit with Clive Owen, but even Clive Owen's character played it pretty cool, and so that's why I kind of took it down a notch from like giving it a better score. So like in really character study intense movies, I'll usually give it a higher score because we do see like longer stretches of an actor giving dialogue or
No, I get that. It's reasonable.
Those are the same kind of issues that I was thinking about a lot. Faraz, you said a lot of the acting was really solid, and I agree with that. They just weren't asked to do all that much as compared to some other films. I think if I'm going to give a 95 for acting, I probably want to see something that like really sticks out to me and catches my eye. Here, I don't think there was anything really deficient, but there was just a matter of how I was evaluating the breadth of what the actors were being asked to do in this film. That's why I'm at an 80. I don't have a lot negative to say about the acting though.
I mean, that's fair enough. All right, let's go on to the themes then. Here I gave it an average score of 70.
I'm at an 80.
I'm at an 82. There was a lot of critique of money and power coming from the detective, the robber, and even some from Madeline. There were definite themes of like class distinctions, working class versus white collar, and like we mentioned before, the film pits like it's two protagonists against the rich and powerful, which I think is universally appealing, right? The underdog versus David and Goliath kind of thing. Other themes going on in the movie. There was a mention of like you can't wash away your sins even if you do have all the money in the world, because it's a Spike Lee film, and obviously it explored like racial stereotypes and discrimination, and we saw that with the Sikh guy. We saw that with like the treatment with like the white policeman talking about his experience of like a black kid drawing a gun on him, right?
I mean, the only one I would add to it maybe is exploitation. Like you have that one quote where it says, if the streets are on fire, buy property or something.
Ooh, yeah.
If there's blood on the streets, buy property.
Blood on the streets, yeah. Otherwise, I agree everything you said. The reason I gave it an average score is just because it was there, but again, it's like a heist movie, so I don't think I think takeaway is a big deal for me when it comes to themes, and since like it's a heist movie, it's not something that you're gonna come out thinking about really, unless you're really going in for that reason, which you're not doing for a heist movie.
Yeah.
So that's why I stuck with the 70, but I can see why you would go higher too.
So it's a heist movie that definitely doesn't intend to give you something to leave like thinking about, but it drops in like little things here and there.
Some of the stronger themes of this movie, like, they don't really fit with the plot that well. You know, like we talked about, like, Spike Lee's always going to have that racial and political commentary in there, and that commentary in a vacuum is good. I don't know that it melds with the heist plot of the movie perfectly, and so I was kind of tempering my score based on that thought process. The one theme that does kind of really work well is kind of, there's a whole concept of opportunism and the cost of that opportunity, or at whose expense you are receiving opportunities. So I mean, I think that kind of fits through the characters' arcs as well as the plot of the movie itself. So I like that. But yeah, kind of a mixed bag for themes. There was a decent amount of depth if you were there looking for it. Like Faraz said, you're probably not going to be slapped in the face with it where you're thinking about that unless you're really looking for it.
Okay, let's move on to the final category, aesthetics. I was kind of harsh here. I give it a 60.
I'm with you. I'm at a 60.
I'm at a 75. I guess I can mention how much I love the intro song and the opening sequence to somewhat justify my score. So there were problems I noticed with the film. There was a definite graininess to the film. I think that was intentional. It was kind of trying to achieve this gritty look, which went along with the major blue-collar themes running through the movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, watching it now in like 2020, the movie feels pretty dated, despite only being like a decade and a half old. I think you found that to be true too, right, Faraz?
Yeah, I definitely thought that the movie aged much quicker than you would expect it to.
Mm-hmm.
While I like the song, I'm not sure if I like the choice of using it. Like,
It doesn't fit, right?
It doesn't fit at all with the movie or any theme or like what the movie's about, the story. It just sounds good, I guess. Or
Yeah, it sounds good.
the beat kind of can get you going for like a heist movie. I can see that, but it just, you know what it felt like?
It's a surface level thing. It serves as like a hype song, so it's
Yeah,
good.
but like, the way I explained it to my wife was like this. Like, it's like when people get like a Chinese tattoo and they think it says like enlightenment or something, but it just says something like water bottle or bucket.
No, well, no.
That's what it kind of felt like.
The Chinese tattoo thing, it's supposed to be like, you're supposed to mock it because it's people trying to be pretentious, right? But the song doesn't pretend to be anything it's not.
It's not about being pretentious. I think it's about...
But that's what, I mean, to me, that's what aesthetics is, right? Like, they like the way it looks, or they think it feels cool, but they don't really understand the depth of it.
No, but it should be purposeful.
That's what I'm saying. I think here, it sounds good, and it feels good, but I don't think it really fits with anything that's going on. I really do love that opening sequence. You get that opening narration, and then as that's kind of wrapping up, you hear the song come in kind of dramatically, and then you get kind of the pans across New York City, and obviously there's a sequence that kind of shows, whatever, the diversity of New York and all of that. So it fits kind of in that way, but in the end it really does feel like Spike Lee heard this song and he was like, oh, I love the tone of this Indian song. I'm going to use this. And he, probably patted himself on the back that, I used a Bollywood song in the opening. And like, it doesn't really, really work. I mean, I have no problem with it. I have no problem with it in terms of the sound of it. I love it, but it doesn't really make a smart choice here.
Do you say that it's not a smart choice because you know and understand the lyrics? Is that where you're coming at it? Because the movie is supposed to be intended to a Western audience who won't be understanding like the meaning, right?
That's true.
No, but if you're making the conscious decision to pick the song, I feel like it should be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we are playing into it a little bit because I know the source material. I know where that song comes from and what it's used for in that movie. So I know kind of the emotional, baseline of that song. And that doesn't really make any sense here. But I really do think, I don't know, I guess I'd be interested to hear, somebody who heard that song for the first time in this movie, whether they felt like it fit the tone. I don't know. But my guess would be probably not, or that it wouldn't really stand out to them that it was like a super well-fitting.
So I read a couple of reviews, like from Roger Ebert and a couple others.
Sure.
They all seem to appreciate the song just because, I don't know. They like
just because they liked it. I mean, I liked it
On the
but
surface level.
So interesting. But anyway, let's not harp on that too much. I don't think the aesthetics beyond that were like anything amazing either. I will say the rest of the sound in the movie was not very impressive to me. It seemed kind of blaring and a little bit aggressive at times. You know, they had kind of that, was it, I don't know what instrument it was, but I think it was an orchestra actually kind of doing the main theme of the song. And every time there was kind of a dramatic turn in the plot, you hear that really loud kind of it's the horns coming in, right? And
Okay.
it was way too loud to me. So maybe that's just like a sound leveling thing, but it felt kind of
Dumbed down because it signaled what's coming, foreshadowed too much.
every
Okay.
every time they were opening a door of a safe or something, you hear the dun, and it was just it was a bit too invasive in terms of the viewing experience, I guess.
Gotcha. I honestly didn't notice the sound design of like that.
Okay, so I agree 100% with Yusuf here because I actually like the visual appeal of the movie quite a bit. Like, it's very well done and it's very uniquely Spike Lee as well. But the music is what pushed me to go under the average of 70 and give it a 60. And it's not even so much about that intro song. That's obviously part of it.
Yeah.
But in general, overall, the music was just way too heavy hand use, just too aggressive.
So I didn't notice the music. I guess that's why I gave it a higher score than you guys. If I had, I might have agreed. Let's talk about the camera work because it was pretty interesting, right? A lot of unique Spike Lee shots. There's that one shot that he does where Denzel's floating and the camera's following him.
Yeah, the floating dolly is what he calls it or something.
Yeah, and I read more about that, and he seems to do that in a couple of his films. And there were some interesting like camera angles that some worked, but then others didn't, and it came across as like amateurish. But most of them worked, so I gave it a decent score.
All right, let's just summarize up our review here. Fahad, you seem to like this movie quite a bit, and then I'm kind of in between you and Yusuf, and I mean, it's still not bad. I mean, even Yusuf, his overall tally comes out to a 74, but clearly our highest category is writing and acting. So we kind of like that a lot. It averages out to an 87 between us three.
Okay.
And then narrative, we're kind of in the middle at 78, and our aesthetics is probably our lowest one.
So my overall score is a 74. What about you two?
Mine's 80 and Fahad's at 84.
Okay. So yeah, that's a decent clip below you guys. Again, I mean, it's an above average score, even if slightly so. I think that fits with how I feel about the movie overall.
So, I mean, generally speaking, writing and acting is on point. The narrative's pretty solid. You'll enjoy it for those things. Maybe the themes aren't that great and the aesthetics are not that strong. But that wraps up the review.
I'm going to have that in my head all week. Jeez.
Yeah, for sure. It's been in my head for the last couple days since I watched it.
Thanks for listening to this production of The Twice Over. If you haven't already, subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcast. And remember to support us on Patreon or by sharing the podcast with a friend. Feel free to contact us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at The Twice Over, or email us at comments@thetwiceover.com. All of the music you heard is from Amerigo Gazaway. Check him out on Bandcamp and Spotify.